We'd love to think everything goes exactly as planned. It doesn't always happen. What happens when one of your ports of call gets canceled? That's coming up today on the DIS Unlimited's DCL Show. Hello and welcome to the DIS Unlimited's DCL Show. I'm Chris Forbeck, one of the agents at Dreams Unlimited Travel. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. The DIS Unlimited team, well, we got to cruise on the Disney Fantasy and we learned a whole bunch. We've done a bunch of shows. We talked about best and worst of the Disney Fantasy. We did best and worst of the Disney Lighthouse Key at Lookout. No, I'm messing that up. Disney Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point. There you go. I got it right. But today, one of the things about our cruise is we didn't get to do all our stops. So today we're looking at the Disney Fantasy and what happens when you don't get to stop at your stop. So I was so lucky. I got to travel with an amazing group. So let me introduce them. First off, my colleague, Dreams Unlimited travel agent, Elaine Edwards. Hello, Elaine.
Hi, friends.
DIS Unlimited's Chloe Fier. She is on DIS Unlimited shows, of course. She does Disney Universal. She writes on DCL Fan, the DIS UO Fan. Chloe, when do you're just like 24/7 plugged in?
just about, yes. Hi, everyone.
Yeah. If I ever really need to know what's going on, I'd send her a note. So, and of course, the DIS and DCL Fan senior editor, Jackie Gailey. Jackie, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Hi, Chris. It's a pleasure.
And Jackie oversees all our websites and makes sure that we have what we need to have on those sites. So she's awesome. And it's great to have all of them here. And of course, we have an amazing producer, Jimmy Valdez. Jimmy got to cruise with us too. It was so awesome. And I keep waiting for Jimmy's going to pipe in on one of these shows. Jimmy, are you going to pipe in on this one?
Let's see. We'll see. Okay, Sometimes, I try to be like very focused on changing the cameras. So
he's like Wizard of Oz in the background, making us all look pretty. So thank you, Jimmy, as always, for everything you do. And we are continuing our series of looks at our recent cruise on the Disney Fantasy. As I mentioned, we were scheduled to visit Disney Castaway Cay, but we couldn't. So we'll talk about that more in just a moment. But first, a word from our sponsor. This show, along with everything we do at the DIS Unlimited, DCL Fan, UO Fan, it's all brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. And we are experts at helping you plan your magical Disney cruise, a visit to a Disney theme park, your Universal adventure. Yeah, there's things going on there. New park. They're going to have photos with the Invisible Man. I'm not quite sure how you take a picture with an Invisible Man, but there you go. They're going to do it. And I'm sure it'll be cool. We are going to offer you insights into your Disney cruise ship, your Disney stay. We're going to give you all the information you need so you're a pro by the time you even walk through by the time you get there. And by booking with your cruise with Dreams Unlimited Travel, you get a shipboard credit of up to $1,000, depending on the price of your cruise. I know you hear nothing's for free. This is one of these cases where you get free money to spend on board and it costs you nothing. The best way to get started, dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And I've been mentioning this on all these cruises, but I think it's important by way of transparency. We got to cruise on the Disney Fantasy. We paid for this cruise. We were paying guests. And there are itineraries where Disney hosts us. This wasn't one of them. So I see people scoff and somehow say, well, then they're influenced. We're not really, but there you go. We paid for this one. Second off, bunch of us are, two of us are Dreams Unlimited travel agents. This is our job. But guess what? We really love Disney and we love Disney Cruise Line and we want you to have the best time possible. That's why we do this. Our job, both here on this podcast and as agents, is to give you the most information so you can make the best decision for you and your family. And we hope you book with Dreams. By doing that, it allows us to do this podcast. But if you don't, we still hope you have an amazing time, and we hope you give you some information that makes it even better. So, okay, all that behind us. Let's talk about when something not so fun happens. I want to give you a quick overview. We did a 5-night Bohemian cruise out of Port Canaveral on the Disney Fantasy. Our scheduled itinerary included Nassau, Disney Castaway Cay, and Disney Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point. And I say scheduled itinerary because we didn't make all those stops. Elaine, it was high winds. In fact, there was a storm front that came through. It wreaked havoc on the East Coast and even in Florida. but it also wreaked havoc in the Bahamas, and we got told, guess what? And they tried a couple times to pull into Castaway Cay, but it just didn't happen, did it?
Yeah. So Jackie and I were actually sharing a room on this cruise, and we were sitting there. I think we were both up at like 6 a.m. because that's when they were trying to dock. And you could tell like they were just going and trying and back and forth and everything. And he tried many times, and eventually we were just kind of sitting there. And I said, I bet we're not going to this island. And the captain came in over the speaker into the actual staterooms and made a very long, drawn out, full of lots of disclaimers speech about
and a lot of apologies.
That basically they are not able to go, and so we were very, very, very disappointed for sure.
Yeah, you could hear the sad. If Disney Cruise Line had the sad horn, they would have played it. Wah wah. But it was not to be. As I say, I'm a bit of a weather geek, so I have been watching this stuff, and it was a little bit choppy in the Bahamas, more than usual. And I was up early because I love watching ships dock. And I think he tried 3, maybe even 4 times. And just if you haven't been to Castaway Cay before, it's kind of narrow. So you have the dock on one side, and then you have coral on the other. And the winds just kept pushing him towards the dock and pushing the ship towards the dock. And it was really hard to do. And frankly, we were not alone. The Disney Wish the next day also couldn't stop at Disney's Castaway Cay. And then I was at the airport talking to somebody who was on another cruise line, a royal ship, and they in fact had 2 of their stops canceled because they only stopped at Nassau because, again, of winds. They just couldn't do it. Chloe, one of the things that happens is, guess what? You're getting a sea day, right? And Disney does a lot of stuff to try and boost the number of activities on board and stuff. But I know you felt a little like, okay, I've been on this ship a lot.
Yeah. So this was a 5-night sailing on the Fantasy. And the Fantasy, while it's one of my favorite Disney cruise ships, just being on, we're spoiled, just being on 2 of the newer ships in the last year, it was kind of tough to be on the Fantasy for that long without getting off. Just it started to become more and more apparent that we missed the newer spaces, and some areas that could use some improvement were becoming, coming to light a bit more. And we talked about it on our experience DCL show, but my deck specifically where my stateroom is on, or the hallway that my stateroom is in, smelled really, really badly. And that just added to, the frustration of being on the ship. Every time I had to go back to my room, I just had a very bad smell to take in. All that said, I'm so sorry. I lost my train of thought. Oh my goodness.
It's okay. It's all good. Jackie, I know you also felt a little bit stir crazy, right?
Yeah. I was getting there. Yeah. And like we didn't get off on Nassau Day. I didn't get off the ship. And so the day that we went to Castaway was, we're supposed to go to Castaway. If I had known that we weren't going to be able to go, of course you don't know these things. And the thought hadn't even really occurred to me that we wouldn't be able to get off the ship. Like that's the funny part about this, is that it's really just something to be aware of. And it hadn't even occurred to me that we might not be able to stop there because it was so windy. But I did a lot of activities that I have never done before. And so I ultimately ended up having a good time.
Yeah. So what did you do that you wouldn't I think that's one of, it's a little bit like lipstick on a pig, right? Everyone is disappointed that they're not going to go. And particularly if it's your first cruise and you really, really wanted Disney Castaway Cay, like that sad horn is all of a sudden really sad horn. And you're going, I'm missing, one of the reasons why I did a Disney cruise ship, and totally 1,000% get that. But what were some of the things that you were able to do that you wouldn't have done otherwise?
So I did this is really fun because I'm not really much of an artist at all in any way, but I did one of the animation classes and I drew Dumbo, and
who happens to be on the back of the Disney Fantasy, of course. So it's like perfect.
I mean, it was fun. It was really a fun time. And if you want to see my drawing, head over to dclfan.com because I've got a picture of it in an article that talks about what happens when you miss your Castaway Key Day. But that was really fun. I went to trivia a few times. That was really fun. I'm not a super trivia buff. This getting older thing and forgetting all this stuff that happened, that I know. I can't remember anything.
To quote Cher, old age is not for the faint of heart. So
you are so right. And so I can't remember anything. And I'm like, and then there's Chloe over here, this book of knowledge, and she just knows all this stuff. So I got to it.
We got to say that Chloe and Rhino did a trivia that I'm a pretty good Disney knowledge guy. They did a trivia that the questions were really hard, and it was purposely about obscure Disney stuff. So there were a lot of questions that there were a couple of movies they mentioned I hadn't even heard of them.
Okay, so
Chloe and Rhino won.
Yeah. That one specifically, that was mostly Rhino. I think I answered one question. So props to him. He literally won the medals and he was like, okay, this is all mine. He was like, no, come on. I got you over here. Elaine and I, though, shout out to Elaine, because we did level 2 Disney Parks trivia twice on the ship and we won both times. And there was some really obscure parks questions, and because it was level 2, I think it was adult only the first time, but it was some really random niche questions, and that was fun. I'm a huge Disney Cruise trivia person, and I was glad to see that they added more trivia, and then they also added more character meet and greets on the additional sea day. I think the biggest bummer, though, like Jackie mentioned, is we didn't get off the ship at Nassau. Because the big thing we were looking forward to, not only being on the Fantasy, but because this was a key cruise, as we like to say, it was stopping at Castaway Key and Lookout Key. We're going to be able to provide that, straight off comparison of having a back-to-back visit at both of Disney's private islands. And that was so ingrained in our excitement and just our overall prep for the cruise. It didn't even occur to us that we could miss one of the stops. And so when that happened, along with not getting off the ship, it was like, what do we do now? So luckily we were
sad horn sound, right?
But that was such a bummer to not be able to stop in Castaway on this special double dip sort of itinerary cruise. But Disney makes the best of it. They add more things to their activities. I also invested in a voyage-long rainforest room pass, and I went quite a bit on that additional day just to decompress a bit in between, experiencing things and taking notes on things. But I mean, honestly, another sea day on the Fantasy, because we stayed on the ship for Nassau. There was already a scheduled sea day, and then we were getting off at Castaway and Lookout. So we essentially had 3 full days on the ship without getting off on land. So stir crazy definitely happened. Yeah.
Let's put some facts around this, because I think people, this is in your cruise contract that you agree to when you sign up for a Disney cruise. One of the things they put in there is they may not be able to make all the stops. You are on a ship. There is weather. There are things that can happen. And this is part of the prerogative. They don't have to make any pay you for this. It just can happen. And you got to be at least mentally prepare for it. We hope it doesn't happen, but it can happen, right?
Yes, and before we get there, I just want to prove that Chloe and I were that victorious, and that at 90s music trivia, which is my jam, we missed 1 point, and so somebody got all of it. We missed 1 point, and so I was very disappointed there. I'm like, we're gonna win this, so
we'll get them next time.
Yeah, and then I also went to a cooking class, which was very interesting. And so it is
Was
kind
making
of one of
lobster
those.
ravioli, right? Was that the lobster
Yes.
ravioli one? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it was free. And so that was, and they gave you wine, and you got to eat the lobster ravioli. So
Yeah, very
that
good.
was very interesting, just to be able to do those other things that you wouldn't really have time to do if you're point intensive, that kind of thing. So, yes, to answer your question, if you read your cruise contract that you agree to when you book the cruise and when you go through your online check-in, you are not guaranteed any port. You are not guaranteed anything, basically. And so a lot of people think that, okay, we missed something, now they're going to compensate us, we're going to get a free cruise, we're going to get, this and that and the other, and they are banging down the doors at guest services demanding, and they have to remind them that you are not guaranteed anything. We do sometimes see that they will refund port fees, and we do sometimes see that if a itinerary is changed in advance, like the day of the cruise, and something has happened, maybe not even weather related, but something has happened with the actual port of call, that they've had some kind of emergency or something's happened and they got to miss it. We will sometimes see that Disney will either replace it with another port, or they might give you a 20% off a future cruise, and that kind of thing. So we do see it sometimes, but for just missing Castaway Cay, they're not going to usually give you any kind of compensation. So,
And I heard a lot of people saying why did some, as Elaine mentioned, sometimes they will rearrange. I heard a lot of people saying, oh, why don't we go the next day to Castaway, because I think the next day was our sea day. Castaway Cay is pretty much has a ship there almost every day. So that's not, and it doesn't have more than one berth. So that's, and I having that many people on Castaway would make it not fun for anybody. So that's not really an option. Disney does what it can. They certainly, they don't want you to have a bad time. So it can happen. We hope it doesn't happen. As Elaine mentioned, the captain's message was filled with apologies, and they feel terrible about it. But they are going to add all sorts of activities. They are going to. They added at this particular point in time, the new Captain America movie had just come out, and so they were showing that during the. I think they also did. I forget whether they had a matinee of the stage show, but they were really making efforts to make sure that there was plenty of stuff to do. And so it's hard, it's frustrating. We get it, but it's part of the cruise experience, and it's just kind of, you have to make the best with it. And I did get off. I did Atlantis on the Nassau day, so I'd been off the ship, so I wasn't in that space. I was fine. Elaine, any tips for people? I mean, one things that if there are times that you want to think about this more. Certainly, we were going in early springtime, and you will get those storm fronts that come through. So that's a time to just mentally be aware of it. The other time is hurricane season, and they may have to rearrange to avoid hurricanes. So those are two times to certainly pick out. But do you have anything you tell folks just so they can be aware that this could be happening?
So a lot of people ask specifically about hurricane season, and they are like, is my cruise going to get canceled? If my cruise is canceled, what happens? All of this. And here's the thing. When it's hurricane season, if there is a development in the water going on at the moment, this isn't like when a hurricane comes to Florida and Disney World closes. This is a moving ship. They just sail around it. So we rarely see cruises canceled for hurricanes. The only time we really see them is when a hurricane or storm front is going to be at the port on embarkation day. They will sometimes cancel, or sometimes they will shift it and they'll say show up on Sunday instead of showing up on Saturday, that kind of thing. So we don't actually see a lot of cancellation around hurricanes because of that. So, which is a good thing.
The other thing around hurricanes is we get a lot of calls when, because these days with all the technology out there, we know when a hurricane is approaching, and people writing us saying, is Disney going to make any announcement? Those announcements will come. They tend to be just before. They are watching it very carefully. If there's going to be a change, they are going to let you know. But we don't know. And they will notify you about the same time as they notify us. So as hard as it is, I gotta chill out and just be zen with it, which is so hard to do sometimes. The other thing is, I think this is a real opportunity to, again, do things. Try the lobster ravioli cooking demonstration. There are things that you may not have done otherwise. Have a longer lunch in one of the dining rooms. One time we were on a cruise and we couldn't get off, and the kids sat in one of the showers, and I just pressed the shower, that was about an hour and a half of pressing the shower button. So you never, and they had the best time. They were in heaven. There were Disney movies playing on Funnelvision, and they got to sit in the shower and splash around. So it was great. Anything else anyone wants to add before we wrap up about this experience? It was my first time actually having I guess my second time having something canceled. So it was new for me. So well, thank you guys for all your insights. Chloe, as always, thank you very much. Appreciate your being here.
Of course, thank you for having me.
You're great, and just, I know we're not a Universal show, but Universal Epic Universe, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Oh, yeah, thumbs up.
I know, big thumbs up, right? I can't wait. Jackie Gailey, thank you very much for being here.
Absolutely, thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed this. It's been a while.
And as I noted, Elaine and I are Dreams Unlimited travel agents. We'd love for you to book with Dreams Unlimited Travel. Literally, it helps pay for what we do here. And I'll tell you, I was a Dreams agent before. I was a Dreams client before I became an agent. So I've seen the world from both sides, and I know the value that having a good travel agent can really make. The best place to get started: dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Select Disney Cruise. The first page will ask you your itinerary. On the second page, at the very top, there's a pull-down menu of Dreams agents. All of them are awesome. You can select one, or somebody will reach out to you. But Elaine, if folks want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yes, my email is Elaine, ELAINE, at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com.
And if you want to reach me, I'm Chris V at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. There's a Chris at Dreams Unlimited, so Chris V for Vorabek. So if you want to reach me, thank you guys all for joining us. Thank you, not guys, thank you all for joining us. A special thanks to our producer, Jimmy Valdez. He always makes us look so pretty. And thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Depending on where you're watching or listening, please like, subscribe, leave us a review. It really does help. There's these algorithm things that go on in the background, and it does really make a difference. It's one of the things you can do to really help us. And if you have topics, you can leave those in the YouTube comments. You can go on the DCL Fan Facebook page, where there are a bunch of people discussing Disney Cruise Line. Or you can just send me an email. I'm always looking for topic ideas and something that would help your cruise better. So with that, thanks so much for being here. Safe travels. We'll see you real soon.